Each of us has a unique career story to tell. For some, these fly high like rocket launches. For others, they're more like the game of chutes and ladders, with advances and setbacks along the way. Either way, we learn countless lessons from these experiences. And that's what we put into the spotlight here at Career Sessions Career Lessons. Join discussions featuring a variety of guests sharing their stories of ups and downs, as well as the secrets of their success and what drives them to continue moving forward. We break down the tools and resources that will help you establish your dream career and realize your professional goals. Here's your host, J.R. Lowry.
Hi, I'm J.R. Lowry. This is Career Sessions Career Lessons, which is brought to you by Pathwise.io. Pathwise is dedicated to helping you be the best professional you can be, providing a mix of career and leadership coaching, courses, content, and community. Basic membership is free, so visit Pathwise and join today. Today, my guest is Mosongo Moukwa. Mosongo is a seasoned executive and consultant who has dedicated his career to helping companies thrive by commercializing new technologies, diversifying their product offerings, and entering new markets. After 30 plus years in leadership, Mosongo has applied his unique talent for identifying important leadership gaps and developing the talent and culture necessary for success. He helps solve important innovation challenges that hold organizations back by unleashing the collective creativity of their people. Mosongo has written and spoken on leadership, neuroscience, project management, and business. He is the author of the recently published Be a Leader of Significance, and his articles have appeared in Business Today, the Journal of Creative Behavior, Crane's Cleveland Business, R&D Innovator, and Business Standard. Mosongo serves as the president of Hathaway Advanced Materials and has held leadership positions in R&D and operations at some of the world's most respected brands, including SC Johnson, Reichhold, Asian Paints, Avient, and PCBL. He lives in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Mosongo, welcome, and thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, JR. I'm really excited to have a conversation with you, and thanking you for having me on your show.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it as well. Let's dive right in. So let's start with your book, actually, Be a Leader of Significance. So why did you write the book, and what's its overall message?
The book is really about advocating for impactful leadership, one that impacts people's heart and mind and make a lasting difference and opens doors that could lead to amazing results. So this came from really reflection on my journey. So I came to realize that the work was never really about market share or innovation, but instead the outcomes were the result of transformational changes that really started from ground up. So the book really is to inspire people to seize leadership opportunities and create moment of significance for others. So that's really what the book is about. And what the book includes is practices and ideas that I've developed over the years that I wanted to share with the readers to help them on their own leadership journey. They'll find in the book many stories, and then at the end of each chapter, there are a number of actions that they could take today. So that's really what the book is about.
Was the title your idea, or did somebody in the publishing chain come up with it?
No. The title was my idea because I wanted to put that emphasis on significance. So that's right. Really because JR, what I've realized is that when I meet many of the managers who work with me over the years, and we're talking about our time together and so on, they never seem to talk about the amount of revenues or market share or we have improved productivity. But we always talk about the experience that they went through while working with me or while engaging on some development of manufacturing project and so on. So the work was not really about improving the share price, but really is that experience. That's why I chose that title of To Be a Leader of Significance.
In your view, what distinguishes a leader of significance from other leaders?
First of all, let's look at what that significance. Let's pause for a moment. Well, one thing that makes our life worth living is really a feeling of significance. Some of our most treasured memories are really the times where, in my case, I shared something, and in doing so, it made me feel special. It made me feel needed. It made me feel value. And I bet some of the people out there, are feeling the same. So the amount of significance that you feel and how you feel that need has a major effect on how we view and work toward our life purpose. So fulfilling the need of significance is I would say, essential to achieving mental and emotional health. So, I work for a COO, and this fellow, just to contrast that with transaction leadership. So early in my career, I was the head of a big department, and I was reporting to this chief operating officer. So I went to see him, hoping to discuss what will be his expectation for the job will be, and then what he was looking forward, and so on. And then he answered me like this. He said, "For me, the rule is simple. You scratch my back, I scratch yours." So you cannot find really transactional like that
right.
one, which is really in many ways that what many leaders do. They tend to focus on the deliverable. They tend to focus on the project and so on. No, not realizing actually that if you touch the heart and the mind of the people and you create those opportunities for them to really feel significant, you can actually achieve beyond expectation.
Yeah, it's very true. I think, there is something that comes from that deeper relationship that you have with anybody, right? Not just a leader, that is built on trust, is built on respect, is built on caring, ultimately.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Because at the end of the day, what employees they are looking for, they want to feel that sense of belonging.
Hmm.
And I remember early in my career, I was working with this group of scientists, and one of them, by the coffee machine, I asked him, I said, could you tell me, what do you enjoy about this place? And so
right.
on. So I thought he was going to tell me, oh, we have this great chemistries, you're giving us a great project, and so on and so on. No, what he told me is that what I enjoy here is that during lunchtime, I could play ping pong, because that gives me an opportunity to meet with John, to meet with Steve. We can share ideas and whatnot. So the sense of belonging, the sense of affiliation was extremely important.
That sense of belonging is really important. I mean, ultimately, you've used the words belonging and valued, and we all go to work, I think, wanting to feel like we're contributing to something bigger than ourselves. And if we're not transactional about it, and part of that, I think, is really deeply tied to a sense that you belong to something bigger, right? And that your contributions to that something bigger are valued. And without that, it does get to be kind of it's just a job.
Yes, true. And you're absolutely right, because we want to belong to groups that will reflect who we are at our core. And so to belong to something that invite our participation, that give us room to be ourselves. And I think that a sense of belonging may be the ultimate way to motivate and bring the best out of people. So that's one element. But the other one, JR, that is also people looking for, is that psychological safety. I remember there was this marketing employee. She got transferred into my group, and she was telling me that while she was in the marketing department, in the beginning, her boss used to come to her and say how great of a job she was doing, the project were moving well, and so on. But over time, she began to hear some rumors that she was not performing to expectation, that she was not being invited to meetings, and so on. And then I did ask her when she joined my group. I said, "What did you go to your supervisor or to your boss and then ask why that was the case?" She said, "No, I did not go because I did not feel safe going there and even raise that question." And she also added, she said, "I felt invisible." So that space there where people actually they can even at the minimum raise their concerns or something that is bothering them, is extremely important for them to be in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I think it's hard to feel a sense of belonging or hard to feel valued if you don't even feel like you can speak the truth, raise your concerns, express an opinion, and clearly the example that you gave, was also in the book is a perfect example of when somebody just destroys psychological safety, for an individual, and ultimately it kind of undercut her confidence and she needed to move into a different situation to get that back. And I think you said she went on to a very successful career. So,
Yes.
yeah, she needed that change. I was just going to change topics and talk a little bit about energy. Energy was a key theme. You used that word a lot throughout the book. How would you define energy in the way that you were intending it in the book?
Yeah, the energy is really looking for those enlivening events, looking for one individual that felt the most alive. That's really what I'm talking about. So you can look at it at the level of individuals, and you can also look at it at the level of the organization. So
Right.
at the level of individuals, what you're looking for is, as I mentioned, you're looking for those enlivening events for the individuals. So you can get it from stories. From stories of the people. So one exercise that I did in a couple of organizations was to pair employees. So the exercise actually was a very simple one. So you put employees in pairs, and you ask each one of them to interview the other person. But then really the question that I told them to do is to ask the question about the times when the other person felt most alive at work. And then at the end of that interviewing session, they will come back and then relate the story. So this was a powerful exercise. And in the book, I'm giving a story of a gentleman called Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee was an older gentleman, and this is a chemical companies that we're talking about here. And there was a process there that in manufacturing that everybody was using. Actually, Mr. Lee was the one who improved that process. So as this individual was relating the story to all of us, he said that early in his career, the process was not working well. The cycle time was too high, productivity was very low. And then the people in manufacturing, they called on Mr. Lee to come and then help them solve the problem. The fact that they initiated that call to Mr. Lee, that was extremely energizing for him. So he went there, improved the process, and so on. And he shared with us that the most enjoyable part of that activity was the fact that they asked him to come and help solve the problem. Now, the interviewer, as he was relating the story, said that as Mr. Lee was telling the story, that he could see that Mr. Lee was really coming alive. So what that means that once we identify those enlivening moments in the life of employee, and we can put them in those situations, that's when those individuals come alive and they can then give the most to the organization. That was for the individual. Now okay. For the company, you want to ask the same type of question. You want to know what is bringing really the organization to life. So for that, same thing, except here that you'll have to ask a group of employees at various level of the organization, and trying to discover those stories that has given energy to the organization. So what is it here in this organization, for example, that really bringing energy into the organization? So this is something that one can do. And then from there, you can then see from the responses of employee, you can see a number of patterns. And this is in the book, I'm relating one example in one of the companies. And what some of the employees, they suggest is, for example, is that my ideas matter, not my position. Freedom is essential. It's good to be appreciated and recognized. And then from there, then you can distill this into what we call life-giving forces. And then in that particular company, what they're saying is like emotional connection was important, passion to succeed, belief in self and others. Some of those life-giving forces may be existent in the organization, but some may be aspiration. So once you know that, then you can now craft processes and system in place and activities to really try to address some of those life-giving forces for the organization. So this is how you really bring that energy forward.
And on the flip side, what are the things that you've seen people do, other than the example you gave a minute ago around psychological safety? What are some of the things that you've seen leaders do that just suck the energy right out of the organization?
I think as leaders, we sometimes miss many opportunities, actually, because there are so many junctures during the day where we meet people at the coffee shop, in meetings, and so on. You can greet people. How are you doing? And then you walk away. That means I'm greeting you, but really I don't want to know more.
Right.
So you could sometimes introduce people somewhat in a very dismissive way. So that also sometimes saps the energy. Or you could come to an individual and say, how are we doing in the project? Because you as a leader, you're interested whether we're meeting our milestones or not. When in fact, you could ask the individual, what are some of the bright spots here? Is there any good surprises here? You know, what you think you should do more? This one brings some energy because it puts the employee somewhat into a reflective mode. And I find that that works actually quite well.
Now, for the leader to do this, I mean, apart from, not just sort of being too transactional during the course of the day, asking how somebody's doing quickly and walking away in your example from a minute ago, but the leaders got to have their own energy too, and they've got to make sure that they develop their own energy, that they preserve their own energy. In your experience, how did you do that so that you were able to consistently provide some of that energy out to people individually in the organization or to the organization as a whole?
This is a great question because I've often said that the leader has to be the energy in chief. So which means that that the leader also has to create that dose of energy, and sometimes you need to give yourself also that energy. But I think that energy really comes down to if the leader has a sense of what really is driving him, because that becomes your compass. That becomes what every day when you're getting up, that is your engine. That's what keeps you going. Because actually the leadership is a journey, and throughout that journey, the leader is going through that process of discovering himself, discovering his purpose. And then as you are beginning to live that purpose and you're getting fulfillment, then you are also generating energy. Then you have a sense of being significant. Then you begin to recognize the significance in others as well.
Okay, we've talked a lot about energy. I don't know whether we've confirmed or refuted the first law of thermodynamics, but we can move on to something else at this point. Curiosity was another topic that came up throughout the book, and you describe yourself as a curious person. It certainly showed just in the narrative of the book. What fuels your curiosity?
I think some of it, JR, is coming also for my own upbringing. We have traveled a great deal around the world, so that has created a great deal of flexibility and adaptability, because then you begin to appreciate other places, other culture. I was born in the Congo, and then we live partly in Belgium, and then in the Congo, and then from there. Even within Africa, we have traveled in some places. So in Europe, we have traveled a great deal. Even when we were younger, my father always helped us to be curious, taking us to museum, exposing us to things, always encouraging us to go and see places. So that, to quote him, he always say, you have to go out there and see places. So
Right.
that always fueled my energy. But because of that, I've developed that curiosity about many things, and also curiosity about people. Because as a student, really, I came across students from virtually around the world, from Iraq, from Iran, from Colombia, Chile, and whatnot. Some of them I'm still in touch even today after so many years, more than 40 years. So then you begin to appreciate and you want to learn more. And I think that has helped me also as a leader, because I believe that even to develop that trust with others, you need to have that persistent curiosity. When you're looking at the people, you want to look at them with generosity. You want to look at them as a person with soul. So I think that's where probably that curiosity has come from.
Do you think curiosity, when a leader's got curiosity, can their curiosity be contagious in the organization?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Curiosity or passion, all of these are contagious. Because if the leader is curious, then you expose other people. For example, one of the activities that I've done over the years, which I thought helped really those who were working with me, was like when we have the Friday meeting, weekly meeting, I would consciously decide not to discuss projects, but to pick up an article, a current event, or an article on leadership or whatever, and then share it to the group and then have a discussion. So that also spurred a little bit of curiosity to others. And then as time went on, now some of the managers also began to bring something that they thought it would be worthwhile to discuss. Or I will decide I will offer them a book, and then I'll tell them, why don't you guys read this book in 1 month? Let's discuss this. In the beginning, they will be maybe reluctant, but over time, then they began to appreciate this. And some of them have continued doing this practice in their own jobs in different companies. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because when you're curious, you're beginning to ask questions. As you are learning, you are also sharing your learning with other people, and in turn, they can feed now off of what you are telling them. They may even go now and research more, come back, and you can then have a conversation with others.
I know you like to meet as many people as you can when you join an organization. What are some of your favorite questions in those introductory conversations with people?
When I meet with them and I'm agreeing with them, I will ask them, what are you from? What brought you here? Because people come from various areas and whatnot. And then if they said, "Oh, I'm from Chapel Hill," say, "Oh, as a matter of fact, I've lived in Chapel Hill, and whatnot. Well, what did you go and whatnot?" And then we begin to have a conversation. Then they might talk about their family and whatnot, and then I might ask, "Oh, how is your father?" and so on. So these are the types of conversation that we have. So those small conversations outside the project related, I think it helps building that connection with with others. So that's really what it is there.
How is your memory for those conversations? Mine is terrible.
Well, for some of them, I remember. That's why I put them in the book. So for some of those conversations, the conversation I told you earlier of that fellow who said he enjoyed ping pong, that stuck on me after more than 40 years. So some of those conversations will remain there because then you can build off of that. You can build off of those conversations, and then you share a little bit about yourself as well in those casual conversations, and then it goes that way. For leader also to build that trust, the leader has to be visible. So you're not going to build that by locking yourself in your office. You have to be visible, you have to be present, and you have to come across genuine.
I know you like to get people in reflective mode when you're sort of checking in on them personally. How do you kind of get them thinking about how things are really going?
You do that by the way you phrase the way you phrase question. You could ask, "Hey, how is the project going? Have we made that milestone yet?" Or a good question could be, "How did you do? What is it like? Can you tell me more?" Then in that case, then people beginning to reflect more, and then you can learn more that way, and then they'll be more open into sharing more if they are having difficulty and what. You're not asking them, "Hey, what trouble are you having?" But as you're questioning it, forcing them to reflect upon their own actions, but also sharing with you successes or things for which they're getting great deal of pleasure and so on.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, it'd be good if you could get people comfortable answering a question of how are you feeling today, right? Or how are you feeling about X or Y? And, having them really answer it. It takes asking it. I think, you get a superficial answer, but the more you ask it, I think, you start to get a deeper answer from people as you build that trust and comfort that, you're going to take whatever they say in the right spirit.
Yeah. And it's incremental. You start little by little, and then you get there.
Yeah. Transformation's a topic you're talking about in the book. I know it's been a big part of your career and your leadership journey. When you think back on the transformations that you've been part of, what do you think have been the biggest keys to success in them?
Key success that has been is to get the transformation from ground up, to go with the idea that you are trusting employees for them to identify and lead that transformation. So what do I mean by that? For example, if you come and you feel the organization needs to transform to be disrupted, trust employees for them to come and suggest what we need to do so that things can be better. And I gave some example in the book where I had a group of employees. I said, well, let's have not the senior manager, but let's have those in the middle. And I tasked them to look at the organization. What are those areas that they feel either needs to be improved or needs to be changed, and so on, and come with a proposal. That brought tremendous energy in that group of middle manager, and they came with great recommendations. So you have to take it from ground up. Transforming by top down, that will never work. You'll never be able to carry at least the majority of the people.
Yeah, there's a heavy sense of empowerment in the way you're describing this.
Yeah.
That
absolutely. And then that's where those employees they will feel that they are significant. So that they will feel that sense of empowering, a sense of that they are contributing to something that is big. So that's absolutely.
And does that translate in the way that you think about leading an organization into a flatter structure? Does it translate into, sort of self-managed teams and things like that?
Well, in all those cases, they led to organizations somewhat of a flatter structure, because that came from the recommendation of those employees. That's really what it came up with. That it also resulted in changes, perhaps in some policies. It came into looking at some activities that could have been de-energizing. It led to rearranging the way projects were being resourced. So all of that. In fact, there is no single result. In some cases, I had a flat organization. In other cases, I had a hybrid type of structure, and so on. So we did experiment. We did experiment as well.
What are the big areas in the transformations that you've been part of that have been, other than the technical challenges, what areas have been the most difficult to work through?
The area that has been the most difficult to work with is that as you are trying to transform the organization, you also need to lay out the vision for the organization. So I think that is something, because you build the trust, you energize the individual, you organize the organization, but you also need to have that great vision. So I think that has been one area that I would say that transformation has to be associated with a vision for the organization.
I want to get to your career journey, but is there anything else from the book that you want us to take away before we change gears?
Well, I mean, the other part is obviously one thing I would say is that leadership is not a solo venture. It's really about how far we progress. It's not about how far we progress, but how far we help others progress. So for that means that you need to develop others. You need to create opportunity for others, because those elements also, brings that level of significance for individuals as well.
Yeah. Well, as they say, there's no I in team. There's also no I in leadership.
Yeah, absolutely.
So go back to the beginning of your career journey. When you first finished school, what did you envision yourself doing? What was your first job? How did you end up in that job?
Yeah, actually, JR, when I finished my PhD, I got a research fellowship to work at Northwestern University near Chicago, Illinois. So I came really into this leadership by accident, JR. So I just finished my PhD, and I've taken this job with a specialty chemical company. I was excited to be part of their research and development, looking forward to developing great products, IP, right, and so on. But then not long after I started, the vice president of R&D called me in one-on-one meeting, and he told me, say, well, Mosongo, we would like for you to be a manager. We don't have a research group here, so I've spoken to your colleagues. They think you'll be the right fit for this role. So I was a bit caught off guard. So I told him, I said, hey, listen, I've never managed anybody and so on. So he replied to me saying, "No, you'll be fine." So all of a sudden, I was a brand new manager with no managerial experience, and I have to figure things out by myself. So some people helped me along the way, but more or less, I was on my own.
How long had you been in the company when you were thrust into that position?
That was 1 month. 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, 1 month. 1 month. So I was there fresh. So 1 month.
Yeah, if your colleagues were backing you, you must have made quite a first impression.
Yes. So, but I was a bit scared, I must say. I was
Of
not
course.
actually, because I was actually taken aback. And then we were there, so I was successful in building that research organization. So 1 year passed, 2 years passed, then eventually that developed into a long and very interesting career. But what crystallized for me, JR, is that, and hopefully for the listener out there, is the thought that growth and comfort, they cannot exist. I think because I was put in that somewhat uncomfortable position, that allowed me to grow, actually. And then that crystallization actually made it easier for me to take on risky changes in different jobs, that some of which were real difficult. So that's how I started my career. But the other one also I learned during a period is that when I started that job, I faced actually a choice to do what other leaders around me were doing, or to do what I felt best for people and then people I was leading and for the organization.
Mm.
So that's really how I started my career. And then once I finished there, so we built a group, and then we were successful. They gave me other assignment, and then eventually from there I got the senior position at the global companies, managing groups not only in the US but overseas. So I managed groups based in Mexico, groups in Austria, groups in Brazil, groups in the Netherlands. And then from there, I got an assignment to go to India. Then I came back, and then I had another assignment to India, and so on. And then today, I'm a president of a company called Hathaway Advanced Materials, which is a specialty chemical company. We make some specialty polymer called polysilicate. So that's all it. And throughout all this, I never regretted being in the leadership role.
You've mentioned all the places that you've lived, and I know you've worked in a number of places across the United States as well, and managed teams in different parts of the world. How has having such a multicultural perspective helped you as a leader?
Well, I think it helped me to realize actually that the human beings, we are all the same. So there is a commonality in human beings. There is a commonality there because everybody's yearning for that human connection, whether you are Mexican, whether you are Austrian, and so on. So that helped me because it allowed me in many of those places to be able to connect with all those team members, and regardless whether it's in India, whether it's in Austria, whether people in Brazil. Actually, I just got an email from one of my former manager from Brazil just last week. So I think that allowed me to be able to weave my way around those multicultural tapestry, if you will.
Along the way, I got the impression that you also, you were recruited for certain of these positions that you've taken. Did you do a lot to actively cultivate relationships with the search firms that work in your industry?
Yeah. When I was actually the assignment I got to go to India, where they asked me to go there and build a R&D organization that is innovative and so on. That one came through headhunt. Actually, I was looking for an opportunity for a role in China, because those days, China was a company. So I was intrigued, and I was saying, it would be good to go there and work there for a while. But there are no assignments. So the recruiter keeps on telling me, no, I'm not getting anything, but I have this opportunity in India and so on. So I told him, well, I wasn't really sure. I was looking for something in China. And then he said, well, why don't you look at it? So that's how it went. But one of the recruiter also, prior to that, told me, he said that when he was looking at my career, he realized that I was very good in building organization. That's what he said. which is something at that time I did not actually fully realize or internalize. So that also helped me. And then some of those opportunities actually came through those headhunters. Yes.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when they sort of play back to you how you come across to them, right? I mean, you can sort of take or leave what they say, but at the end of the day, they're forming opinions on people all the time through their resume or through their, network of referrals or through the discussions they may have with them directly, and they have a lot of influence. So I think it pays to pay attention to what they're saying and how they think about you and maybe things you don't see in yourself.
Yeah, very much so.
When you think back on the different stops that you've made, so far in your career, would you say that you've been more opportunistic or more intentional about it?
Well, some of them were opportunistic, some of them were intentional. When I made my first move, that one was intentional in the sense that I felt that I needed to be involved with other industries, with other chemicals. So, and then that opportunity came, and then I took it as a vice president for one company there who were making chemical for the printing industry. So that's what that was there. The opportunity going to India, that one was more opportunistic because it's not something I was planning to do. And then I said, let's give it a try. If it doesn't work, then we'll just try to come back to the US. But it turned out that actually it was a great experience there, very fulfilling, actually.
Yeah. Did your family enjoy the time over there?
Yes. At that time, my wife came there for a short while. All my children came to visit there because they were adult children. So they came there, and that gave us an opportunity to travel around together, visit the country.
Throughout all of this, what have been the consistent strengths that you've drawn on in your career?
Well, I think throughout this, what I've drawn upon is a great deal of resilience, drawn upon mental flexibility, mental agility, if one can put it that way, drawn upon the focus to continue to drive, not to give up at the first obstacle. So I think probably those are the three things I would cite there. Yeah.
Storytelling is a big part of the book. Would you consider yourself a strong storyteller?
Yes, I think so, because I've realized that when you're telling story, actually, when you're telling a story, the story is like in a way a mirror of other people. So when you're telling a story, or when somebody else is telling the story, you could have a mirror of who they really are. So some of the stories that really left an impact on me, those are the ones that I put in the book. My hope is that could inspire others who are reading the book there, so they can relate and perhaps use some of those ideas, but at least they could understand the meaning behind some of the ideas that I put out there.
What are some of the leadership traits that you really had to work at developing over the years?
Well, in the beginning of my career, one area that I have to work on, particularly when I was given that first assignment, was the area of giving feedback. So I was extremely reluctant once I was given that job to give feedback. I was very good, and the people in my team, they appreciate that in terms of energizing them, getting them excited about the project. But I was very reluctant in giving feedback. And then when I began to realize that, and some of my colleagues actually brought that to my attention as well, that then I began to realize it was really affecting the way the group was being viewed and the way I was being viewed, but also the way the group was being viewed. That's where I decided to begin to calibrate. I did not at that time get any formal training on how to give feedback. So I more or less learn it on my own, because initially when you're giving feedback, I would tend to attack the individual, hey, why you're not doing this, and let's not be lazy and so on, when in fact that was the wrong way of giving feedback. Right. So I began to learn that, no, you have to attack the situation, not the individual. So that was the beginning of my career. And when I quickly realized that, then everything else fell in place. Actually, employees, they look for feedback. They're very appreciative when you're giving them feedback.
Yeah, it goes back to feeling valued, right? What or who inspires you?
Well, there are a number of people here. The person who inspired me, first of all, is my father. The reason I'm saying that is because he lost his father, I mean my grandfather, at the age of 8. So despite that, and they were like 10 children, so they had to fend for themselves, and it was really hard for them. And he worked very hard to put himself into schooling, then learn and so on, and then eventually he made something of himself. He got some good position, which allow us then in turn to be sent to good schools and so on. So what I see there is a person who was extremely dedicated in improving himself and pursuing a goal despite the many challenges that he had at that time. So that's one person. The other one as a leader, I would say, is Nelson Mandela, not the Nelson Mandela that we know as a politician, but really as an individual. And I'm sure you know the movie Invictus. Huh?
Yes.
Invictus was written by William Henley. Those are the words of inspiration and motivation. And then they made a movie. Now, when you look at that movie, we know the context, apartheid and so on. But really, when you look at that movie, you will see that the way they portray Nelson Mandela there is a leader with extremely high emotional quotient, emotional self-awareness, interpersonal relationship, empathy, all those elements, reality testing, flexibility, listening, assertiveness. So when I looked at that movie under that angle, I really appreciate. I got the sense of the individual, who this man really was. So for that, I would say certainly is one of those that will come on top of the mind.
What's ahead for you over the next few years of your career?
Well, I'm involved as a president for Hathaway Advanced Materials. One of the objectives that we have here is that this is somewhat of a startup company. So me and the chairman of the company were involved in raising capital. So that's what it is. So we are producing materials, we are selling, but we think we can make a bigger impact if we could have some injection of capital to have really to scale up the technology much further than we have done so far.
You talk about legacy in the book. Where does legacy factor into how you're thinking about things? What legacy are you focused on leaving?
Well, I mean, the legacy that I would like to leave, well, I would like to be remembered as someone who made a difference in people's lives by believing in them and helping them uncover and liberate who they truly are. So I think that understanding have come to articulate what really drives me. That's really the reason why I also do some coaching of some of the people. So it feels more directly aligned with the why than being an entrepreneur or being a senior leader.
Any last thoughts or advice you want our audience to take away?
Well, the advice that I will tell the manager, I think, try to during your journey go to the process of discovering yourself, because then you can really understand who you are, and then it will give you a sense of purpose in your leadership activities. We have to remember. In the ancient Greek, the priest at the temple of Apollo at Delphi, they had this big sign, know thyself. Leader, you have to go through that process. For those who are starting in their leadership role, I would say start by reflecting upon events or books, things that really have had impact on you. And then you will start then discovering some themes out there. And for those who are somewhat senior, I would say, begin to think of writing your own eulogy. How would you like to be remembered? Because I think once you have that, then as a senior leader, it will really help you in terms of even strengthening or leaving your legacy.
That's very true. It's very true. How do you practice reflection?
One thing, I read a lot. So I have a book here, notebook that I write some thoughts. Recently, I've been reading a lot about the Stoicism, and then I'm looking at it by reflecting upon my own life. to see those instances where some of those lessons could have been applied, or things that I've done actually could have been called stoic, and so on. So that's how I do. That's how
Okay.
I do.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this with me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, JR, thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely.
It was a great conversation.
I enjoyed it as well. You have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You take care.
I want to thank Mosongo for joining me today to cover his recently published book, Be a Leader of Significance, his own career journey, and what he's learned along the way. If you're looking to be a leader of significance or just a better professional, visit pathwise.io. And if you'd like more regular career insights, you can become a member. It's free. You can also sign up on our website for the newsletter and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Career Sessions, Career Lessons. We hope the nuggets of wisdom shared today help guide your path to the successful career of your dreams. This podcast series is part of Pathwise.io, which is here to help you live the career you want. We provide a comprehensive mix of career and professional development events, insights, tools, and exercises backed by a group of leading coaches and other career management experts. If you aspire to something more or just something different in your career, join us at Pathwise.io. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. See you again on the next episode.